Alrighty, everyone. Welcome. I sound sick as shit because I am, but we're here doing a tutorial today, so I figure what better day to do it than a day that I'm dying slowly on the inside. But no, this is going to be the Finch mods non-ELS tutorial, I suppose, if that's what we want to call it. Oh lord, sorry, I do sound sick as shit, so you will definitely hear me be rather stuffy. And for this video, I thought I'd keep it nice and simple. Still gonna use paid assets, obviously. I mean, I'm not gonna do a non-ELS tutorial something completely free just because it'll be very bad. To say the least, I use a lot of prod stuff for lighting whenever it comes to lighting anything I do, so prod makes a lot of really good stuff, and once you get used to using all that really good stuff, you can't use bad stuff anymore. But we're using that good middle class ground. Your bang for buck. We're using some Eraser stuff for this tutorial. So I'm just got his 2011 Ford Crown Victoria Police Interceptor here, and we're gonna be putting a light bar on it and a visor bar, I suppose. And just kind of going through and showing you the process that I do whenever I make a vehicle in Z-Modeler. So obviously you're going to want to merge. That's your first thing. You should kind of know how to use the program already if you're watching this. You're going to merge and you're going to go get your lighting and other stuff. So for this one here, I'm thinking I'm just going to do the Phoenix quad front and rear light bars, and we might incorporate some side rockers or something else, but just for the ease of the video, we'll go ahead and we'll just go ahead and do the front quad. We'll make this as quick as possible for everybody, and so you just click all and merge it. You don't want anything to conflict with stuff that's already named in here, definitely, so make sure that's something that's not going to happen. And if we come here, I'm just going to take this right one and get rid of it, because I'm not going to use it at all. I'm a very big fan of making it where I'm putting it where I want it to go and then mirroring it. That is the route I like to take. That is the route I've always taken, and it's a really good route. So you're just going to start off by coming here and kind of placing your light bar where it needs to be. So obviously you see here's the windshield. There's that. So I'm just going to kind of rotate it here to where it matches up the flow of my windshield here. I'm a very big fan of that. I like it to flow really well. Chargers, I have found, are typically the hardest to get really well flowed with, unless it's got a nice curve to the visor bar. Like this one here doesn't do too bad with it, but there's not a lot of good free stuff for chargers in my opinion. But then again, I'm also incredibly picky. So we got that there. So that there's not looking too bad at all. We're starting to work with some hot steam here now. So we'll just kind of make it flow at a heavier angle here. Now, just for the video's sake, I'm not going to be 3D modeling a bracket in Blender. Normally, I would come here, I would model an actual bracket that comes up here onto the visor itself. It would attach to that. I'm not going to do that because that's going to defeat the purpose of this video, and that is to show you how to set up non-ELS. So we're just going to kind of get that in a good, happy place. So I think right about there is going to be a nice little happy spot for it. We'll actually bring it forward a little bit even. So, well, I don't like the way that's sticking out there. We'll put it back under a little bit. Yeah. Alright, we'll kind of let that sit like that in there. That'll give you a good view of it. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come in here, I'm going to take it, and I know I'm not going to use blue and amber at all because I do fire vehicles, so I'm going to just instantly kill those. Those aren't going to be around Fuck those guys, they can get out of here. Now I got red and white. Now I'm going to shut off my red. I'm going to find out which of these whites is the front one, and it's that one. So now I'm going to just get the rest of these guys out of here. I never want to see them again. And now, so that first red one's there. That's going to be the front red one, so we'll get rid of him. And I'm just going to drag these outside of that to where they're not children anymore, and we got that. I'm going to just drag the Ford down here because these need to be above the windshield for you to see them in it. But that's looking pretty solid, and I'm still very bugged by not having a bracket, so I'm going to just bring that up a little closer to that there. And recess it a little more, kind of hide it from the world. Well, no, we don't want to recess it anymore. We'll push it out. I think that'll. I tell you what. Oh. Ah, yes. So this is one of my favorite things ZModeler does. Lovely, lovely program it is. So I think we will just open up Spotify. Spotify is going to be our savior today. Open that up and then close that. And so I think we'll angle this kind of parallel there. Yeah, for video's sake, we'll call that good. I'm not gonna fight it really any more than this. You get the idea. You want it to look good. You don't want it to look shit. That's kind of hard to do with where we're at here now. So, without modeling actual brackets and other things. So once you have that, you're gonna go through here and you're gonna look at your stuff. So you're gonna see what all needs to be on it. So obviously, that's the shell. You're definitely going to need that. You're definitely going to need your emissives. Definitely going to need your modules. This optional, though, this here is all just detailed bits that are using a lot of extra polys, I would presume. Not too bad, actually. It's about 148 triangles, so we'll leave that on there. And what I'm going to do, just to save myself some time, is I'm going to go through and attach all of this stuff real fast. And then I'm going to take this, select it, create a copy. I'm going to mirror it along the x-axis. I messed that up there. Hang on. These two emissives were not on, so we'll do that again. We'll create another copy and then mirror it. And so that's not too bad looking in there. It's enough for me to not re-record this all over, so. So now what I'm going to do, because the way I do the vehicles, is I'm going to come here and I'm going to just take all these emissives and I'm going to unlink them. And we'll just go ahead and shut those off. I'll come back to them later. Now we got the two visor pieces themselves, and what I'm going to do this is I'm just going to take my attach tool, put those together. I'm going to select these, right click, axes, reset to pivot helper axes, reset the world. Do all this fun stuff and then center it to object. Now, what I'm going to do, because I know a lot of people want to know how to do this whenever they see this, is I'm going to show you how to make this an extra with your lighting under it. So what you're going to do is, first, you're going to create your copy and your dummy, like you normally would when you're LODing it. And I'm just going to do L0 for tutorial sake. Obviously, you're going to want, L1 and 2 at the very least. Preferably to 3. But I'm just going to come up here, convert to compound. I'm going to lock it, L0. And I'm going to drag the mesh in there, shut off L0, shut off the lock. So now I have that LOD'd. And we'll just call this, I think H isn't used on this, so we'll call this miscellaneous H. But we're not doing that because we're doing an extra, right? So we're going to come here, make sure there's no extras in use, which there isn't. And then we're going to come here and we're going to call this extra 1. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come here and we're going to take a box. We're just going to put a box around that, and we're going to come into vertex mode, or vertex mode, and we're going to move the vertices to where they need to go on the model. Go into left view here. We're going to move these upwards to where they need to go. And then we will move these downwards. We're just going to try to make it as small of a footprint as possible. Alrighty, that should be good. I'm just going to pop into 3D mode and make sure it covers it, which it does. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to come here and name this box autosave there. Autosave, you'll hate it at first, but it'll become your best friend one way or another, one day or another. So we're going to call this extra 1 space, and then inside of brackets, COL, all caps for collision. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to come here, click on collision, convert to compound, lock, shut collision off, there we go, and now we have our collision there. So now we're going to put that under extra 1. So now we have extra 1 LO'd, and we have a collision for it. Now that that's done, we're going to go ahead and come here with all these fun little emissives. And all of these guys here, we're going to make a lighting pattern with. Now what I do for my lighting patterns, it's the same across the board. I do the NFPA flash alert. It's my favorite lighting pattern. It's the best lighting pattern, so that's what we're going to do on this here. So we'll just start off by naming these. So I have Siren 1, and then for my sake, because the way I do my pattern, I'm going to call this Siren 2. But you can, list it however you want to in terms of making your pattern, because that's ultimately what it's going to boil down to at the end result, is how your pattern is set up is based off what your sirens are named and what binaries are being used to generate that siren's flash pattern. So we got Siren 3, then we got Siren 4, then we have Siren 5, and then we have Siren 6, Siren 7, and Siren 8. And I'm going to drag the 7 and 6 above the 8 here just to keep it in order. So once you have all your sirens there, what you're going to do is you're going to select all of them, and you're going to just reset the axes, and then you're going to center them to object, and you'll have all of those centered there. So now you're going to take all of them and create a copy, and then you're going to convert those to dummies. Now you should have all those little blue dummies there. Oh, excuse me. So now, what you're going to do is you are going to take all of your mesh here and just kind of shut them off here so you can select the dummies only. And I'm going to do this in top view because that'll probably give you the best way of seeing it here. But you're going to select all your dummies. You're going to make sure your mesh is on. And we're just going to move by the y-axis on the screen. But you're just going to want to move these back just a bit to where they're going to hide inside of that little light bar. So as you can see, this here is going to determine where those go. So they started here, right? So we're just going to bring it back a bit here to where it's going to bring it in the bar. And so if you look here in your 3D viewpoint, you'll see that those are pretty well within the bar now. So now I'm just going to shut off all those dummies for my sake, and I'm going to take all of my mesh here, turn it back on, and I'm going to drag them under each of the dummies. So Siren 1 under Siren 1, siren 2 under 2, 3 under 3, 4 under 4, and so on. Alrighty, and then once you have all that done, you'll just go ahead and open up all of those there. And we will shut off the light bar mesh. And what we're going to do now is we're going to select all of these, right-click, axes, and reset to parent. And you'll notice that the axes there moved to where the dummies are now. So if I undo it here, you'll see that is where they were before, and then if I click redo, they've moved now to where that is. And so you can turn on your light bar here, and now you'll see where it's going to scale to. It'll scale to a point hidden actually inside of your light bar. So once that's done, I mean, you have fundamentally done a majority of your modeling work. So now what you're going to do is probably the easiest part of it all. You're going to select it all. You're going to come down here to the bottom right and make sure pivot is off. Click properties, scale, and then depending on what you're doing, your scale value is going to depend. So something like this, I would do a 0.1 because I know it's going to work perfectly fine. However, if you're doing something, say like a fire apparatus where you have lights spanning across the whole vehicle linked to one another, you would do something like a 0.02 or 0.1. You'd scale by 50 or 100. We're just going to scale by 10 because we can do that no problem here. So once you have all those there, you're just going to click apply, and you'll see that they have shrunk quite a bit here. And now you're just going to deselect that. We'll turn on extra one here, and I will show you now. Now we can see here, we'll actually go into user mode, because you can infinitely zoom in user mode. Now we can see here, whenever we zoom in, that our lights are no longer there, and if we actually shut off the solid view, you can see that they are back there hidden within the light bar. And so the reason that that is so important is because the way that non-ELS works is through the scaling of lights from small to large and back. So your binary code that I'm going to show you in just a second is actually just telling it when to scale up by a set scale factor. And now you get to the most fun part of any vehicle, LODing all of your sirens. So we're going to come here and lock L0 and do that. And then we're just going to LOD every single one of these. So, same process as before. You're going to convert the dummy to a compound, lock it, press L0, drag your mesh within the dummy. Alrighty. And then once you've had that done, you're all LO'd. Now what you're going to do is, this is where it gets kind of interesting here. So we named that as extra 1 before, but now we have an issue here. If we put these sirens under extra 1, they aren't going to show in game. So what you can do to mitigate that is you can get what's called a dummy helper. And now this dummy helper here, we can actually name extra 1. And we can rename this to miscellaneous, we'll say G, because, well, H. We know H wasn't in use, so we'll call it miscellaneous H. What we can do now is we can take all 8 of these sirens and drag it under extra 1, miscellaneous H, and drag it under extra 1, and then extra 1 collision, drag it under extra 1. And that collision's going to tell this extra 1, hey, this stuff can actually disappear, no problem. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to take that extra 1, and we're going to go ahead and we'll just drag it under dials here. And so now we have our Ford Crown Victoria here, ready to go. And what I'm going to do, just for ease of simplicity here, is I'm going to export it to a vehicle I already have made that is a charger here, and so we'll need BCFD POV1 for the name. So we're going to name the top hierarchy BCFD POV1. And we'll go ahead and export that to that. So we'll come over here to BCFD POV1, stream, export the first YFT file. Click yes, okay, and now we're going to go ahead and do _hi, press enter here. Then we're going to export that one as well to the hi YFT, or if it's not already there, you would type it down here. And then once that's done, you have that. Now, one thing I did realize I just forgot to show you first was in the material browser, because it was on my other monitor here and I neglected it. But definitely, anytime you do something, you want to take your vehicle emissives materials, vehicle light emissive materials from whatever lights you add, and you're just going to want to drag it up here to the very top. That's your best bet to do with that. So, now that I've fixed that critical issue that I neglected, we will go ahead and come here and export again on both YFTs. Alrighty, now that that is done, I'm going to go ahead and open up OpenIV and meet you there. Alrighty, we are here in OpenIV now, and what I'm going to do now that I'm here is I have already dragged my stream folder over to the side so we can actually see our model now here. Obviously right now it has no textures, as you can see, so we're going to show you how to fix that here. So we can definitely see our light bars there though, and he's definitely ready to be in game, and you can see our mesh hiding back there. So now we're going to create what's called a texture dictionary. So you're going to want to make sure edit mode's on. You'll click it up here and click yes. Right click new texture dictionary, and we're going to name this the same name as the vehicle, so BCFD POV1. Go ahead, open that texture dictionary. Now what you have to do is you have to take all the textures for your vehicle in your lights and put it in this texture dictionary. So, in our instance here, I have the CVPI POV1 folder, and let me drag that from my far monitor over here. So what I'm going to do here is, I know we use the CVPI, so I'm going to come here, textures. I'm just going to select all of its textures and drag and drop. And then we're going to come here to the, quad front and rear. I'm going to grab its textures and just drag and drop. We'll click OK. Now, there are several videos on optimizing your YTD. For example, you do not need to have, let me find an example here. You don't need your vehicle generic files. Anything that's in the vehicle shared YTD, you do not need. So if you really need to optimize your YTD, that is a fantastic way to do it. Well, as we can see, I also have 3 liveries on here. I have a blacked out livery, the template, and a third livery that is just plain for me to color it however I please. So we're just going to go ahead and save this here, now that we've done that. And now you can see it's 7,301 kilobytes, which is perfectly fine. As long as this is under 16K, it'll run. Best advice is to keep it under 15 for all files. But so now here's an interesting conundrum. As we can see here, I have textures on my mesh, I have textures on my lights, the glass for the lights, but I don't actually have textures on the visor bar itself, which means once we put this in game, that's going to pick its own texture out of them, which is very bad. We do not want that. So what I'm going to do here in this issue is I'm going to open ZModeler back up, and I'm going to come here to the materials, and I'm going to find what material that is on. So I have a pretty good idea. I want to say it's black interior. No? Okay, see, I stand corrected. Black exterior. Haha. So it's actually going to be across several textures. So we have black interior is one of them. Black AF is going to be one of them. And black interior is going to be one of them. As we can see, the top part there is also kind of missing. So we have paint. That one's just going to apply to paint in game. So we're not worried about that. But these black ones we're kind of worried about because they're not there. So as we can see, those actually don't have a texture map to them. So what that means is those are not going to have a texture in game. So we want to fix that. We'll just come here and pick black dark. Black dark's a good, very dark black that would look good in this instance here. So these are the kind of issues you have to watch out for as you come through with certain models, because some people don't add stuff to them. In the instance here, the model developer for the light bar did not add the proper texture inside of the material itself. So now that we've gone through and we've added those, and we have the vehicle paint 1 set for that one, there's really no problem left. We can just go ahead and re-export this YFT now. And whenever we do this, that will make sure that our materials are up to date and they are set properly. And so this is crucial because the last thing you want is to finish a model, put it out, and then have any issues of any sort with it. So as we can see, this is the issue we were having, no textures on the actual visor bar itself. Now if we come back here and open the new updated YFT, as we can see here, our light bar has the proper texturing on it. We have used black dark to give it a nice dark color, and it's going to be in there properly. So now here comes the very fun part. We're going to go ahead and just close that, and we are done with creating the texture dictionary. Now we're going to get on to what is known as the metas of your vehicle. And so for this one, I already pretty well have the metas created because I'm already using metas that I had set up with the charger, but we're going to come here for the reason anyways, and we're going to open up our vehicle.meta, and as we can see here, I still have the SRT Daytona handling ID on it. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave that. Your handling ID will either be custom or it'll be a default one. Audio hash name Tampa 2, that would not be a good one for the Victoria. I believe it's Police 3. I could be wrong. I haven't done actual vehicles in a long while, so that's kind of out of touch there with that. But what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to open up these other meta files, your 3 main ones. The handling's a little more in-depth, and that's something I'll cover in a later video. So you have your carcles.meta, your carvariations.meta, and your vehicles.meta. Your vehicles is going to carry all of the vehicle information, so it's going to have, all of your flags that are going to tell the vehicle, special little features it has. It's going to tell your vehicle its type. It's going to tell it that it's an emergency vehicle class, It's going to tell you what you get when you get in the vehicle. For example, this one here gives you a pump shotgun whenever you get in the vehicle. It's going to tell you your vehicle, essentially what vehicle layout it's going to use, so that way all the doors open properly and the seats work the way they need to do. So this here is just going to hold a lot of your vehicle's just main information. So what we're going to do here is it's also going to hold your model name, your game name, your handling ID, etc. So the model name doesn't need to be changed in this instance, but this one here obviously will need to be changed as is whenever you get to the point. So you get to your car variations then, and your model name you want to match what's in the vehicles.meta. So what I'm going to do here, because I changed the audio hashes, I'm just going to save that and close it. Now you get to your car variations, and the biggest thing you're going to worry about in here making emergency vehicles is this part right here, the siren settings value. So this here, you're going to set to a unique number, and you're going to want to make sure it doesn't match anything else that's not using that exact, carcles.meta. And, you're pretty much good to go here. Just make sure your model name's set properly, and that's it. Now once you're in your carcles.meta, you're going to want to come here, make sure your vehicle name matches, and you're going to want to make sure that siren settings ID value that you had in the car variations.meta is going to match the one you have here. Now, the carcles.meta, I will have a whole video going over, so I'm not going to dig too deep into it here. But the biggest thing is you're going to have your beats per minute value, which is how many times per minute your lights are going to, trigger, how fast it's going to get through that 32-bit binary code. And then you're going to have your actual sirens themselves. So for example, Siren 1 was one of our light bar sirens earlier. So you're going to have a section here that is flashiness. And this is where all of our work is going to be done. So what you have is you have your delta value, which is the actual rotation of the light. So all the delta value is basically the angle you are at a circle in a decimal. It's, so for example, if you are at a 0 degree angle, it is a solid 0. If you are at a 180 degree angle, it would be pi. It would be 3.14159.265. You know, it's all able to be found through that, and I will have a little chart that I link here that'll show you all of those delta values that you're going to use, the main ones anyways, which would be, you know, 0, your 45s, your 90s, and your 180 degree delta values. Then you have your start value. So this one here is not used by a lot of people, and the reason being is a lot of people don't mess with that or the speed usually. So your start actually tells it when in that flash the light is going to start. So for example, if I have a 4-segment bit that's all on, but I don't want it to turn on right at the first segment, I want to turn it on about halfway through the first segment, I can mess with the start value in order to get that proper timing for it to turn on. This here is going to be a lot more crucial when you're doing rotating lights, which I'll have a whole nother video on, because that's what's going to actually give your lights unique looks to them. They're not going to be all rotating in unison. It's going to give them all separate rotating times that they start, and that's going to make them rotate at different angles around. Then you have your speed value, and the best way I can describe this is think about how long you want your light to be turned on. So for example, if you want your light to be on for, you know, quite some time, for the full time, you would just keep your sync to beats per minute on, which is this right here. You would keep that on if you want that. However, if you don't want that, say you want your light to be on for less time of its whole binary, so think of how start starts the whole binary sequence a little bit later, right? Think of speed as, instead of starting it later, it stops it quicker. So this here is actually going to make it flash faster in a way by making the ons, or your ones in the binary sequence, be a lot smaller in the grand scheme of things. Actually, it's very interesting to try to explain to someone who's never used it, but once you play with it a little bit, you'll figure it out right away. I mean, it's super easy. Your sequencer value, this is the single most important thing here. Nothing else matters whenever this is not set up properly. So this is what actually tells your light how it's going to flash. So for this, I'll get a notepad out, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you a basic sequencer value here. So it's all in 32-bit binary, so it's going to have 32 numbers. So we'll say on, off, off, on, off, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. That's a super basic value there. And then we'll just duplicate it again. That is, you know, your whole 32-bit sequence right there. So what this is telling it is this is the binary. So the ones are on and the zeros are off. So it's telling it it's going to be on for 2 segments, off for 2 segments, on for 2 segments, and then off. And then it's going to get a little faster here. So basically what this is this is just telling your lights how they're going to flash. And then what you're going to do is you're going to convert these to a decimal. So in order to do that, let me open up Chrome here, you're going to go to a binary to decimal converter here, which we just have this one here. And what you'll do is you'll enter your binary number, convert it, and it'll convert it to a decimal. Now that decimal is what your actual sequencer value is. So that's your decimal. That is the same as that number, but as a decimal. That there is what you are going to put right there in your sequencer value. Obviously, I'm not going to change it because this is already pre-set up to work properly. As well, you want to make sure all of your lighting is properly set up here. Sorry, I'm kind of having a brain not working moment there. There we go. So all of your colors and such not. So here in this instance, siren 1 and 2 are both going to be all white. And then siren 3 through 8 are going to be all red. in which that is going to be under your color value. You're going to set that there. That's right here below Corona. And then the only other really important part is to make sure scale value's on and your scale factors properly. That's what I was telling you about earlier. So for example, our scale factor here is still set to 50, which we obviously don't want, so we're just going to come up here. I'm going to change this one to 10 here. And then to save myself time, since I use Visual Studio Code, I'm just going to copy that whole scale factor. I'm going to select this scale factor here, change all occurrences, and paste it. Now we're ready to get it in game. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause the video, start up my local host, and meet you guys in game. And we will go from there here in a second. Alrighty guys, welcome. We are here inside my local host now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to spawn that Crown Victoria we made. So, I'm going to come here to the vehicle related options. I'm just going to spawn it by name, BCFD POV1. Now you'll see it's here. We have our lights there, so I'm just going to go ahead and come here, and we're going to make sure that our extra is working properly. So liveries, obviously we have the 3 liveries here. I'm going to set it here because I'm a big fan of having that hot lava red. And we'll go ahead and just, I don't think, yeah, we can't change wheel color, unfortunately. So extra 1 off, there we go. Now we can see we just have a regular Crown Victoria if we want it to be. You know, say we're a civilian. Or, you know, say, you know, we want a light bar, we can do that there. And whenever we press Q, our lights turn on, no problem. So you have your lights there. Obviously your siren's working. Mine is just a Carson volunteer fireman siren. Or not necessarily I would say volunteer, but it's a Carson fire siren. So that's your lights fully working there. And I mean, as we can see, no issue with them whatsoever. We'll come here into first person, give you a little better view there. I mean, they are flashing perfectly, they're matching the pattern perfectly, they are coming out just the way we want them to, and that's what you want. And now that pattern there that I'm using is using speed values and a lot of other stuff we'll get in depth with, but for now, I mean, I think that's about it for the non-ELS tutorial, guys. That's pretty much all there is whenever it boils down to it in the grand scheme of things. I know I'd announced on my Discord, but if you're not in there, I do apologize for sounding stuffy, sick of the life strep throat while I'm recording this, so any mess ups and mistakes, anything like that, just kind of shoved to the side for that reason. But nevertheless, guys, that is a non-ELS tutorial. If you need any support whatsoever, my Discord will be linked below. It's also linked to my page here on YouTube. Definitely subscribe if you want to not miss the other videos coming out here. There's going to be a lot more going in depth with Z-Modeler and Blender itself here. And, you know, I think that's all, folks. So I think I'm going to just, you know, call it a night here, and we'll get started with some more tutorials tomorrow, guys. And we'll have those coming out hopefully this weekend. So thanks again, guys, and take her easy.